Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two cousins who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Monica.
And, this week, we're a little all over the place this week because our grandma's in town, and, it's a lot of chaotic energy.
Mm-hmm. So we have kind of a full house here.
Also, I promise this is Sprite, not alcohol. It is too early in the day for that.
I was gonna say, I promise no one's gonna think that, but you're drinking it out of a red
It's a red Solo cup, so I needed to preface the fact that it is not alcohol. I mean, not that it matters. I've had plenty to drink on the podcast before, but if I'm stupid, I can't blame it on wine this time.
There you go. But yeah, we have kind of a full house this week. Me and Mary Kate, we normally see each other at least two times a week.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but we've been spending a lot of time together. Longer.
You have really shitty earrings
I
today.
know.
Okay.
My ears are turning.
Her ears are turning the same color as my hair right now.
Yeah,
it's cute. My hair looks like garbage. Don't worry, I'm getting it done on Thursday.
Mine looks like garbage, and I can't do anything about it because my hair is thinning, and I don't know what to do with it. So if it looks like I'm wearing a really cheap wig from Spirit Halloween, just shut your mouth and keep listening.
Yeah. Did anything exciting happen this week other than Grandma coming to town?
No.
Yeah,
because it was just a lot of crying on the other days.
I mean, the last time we talked, it was Father's Day. I had a good Father's Day. Oh my God, I made pierogies for my dad. Let me tell you how many of them I ate. I bought 4 dozen pierogies, and I ate 6 total of all of the 4 dozen pierogies. So, yeah, no. Granted, yeah. Anyway, but they were a friend of mine. Home makes specialty pierogi flavors, and they were bomb.
What kind did you get?
Steak and cheese, buffalo chicken wing dip.
Sexy.
Renee just shouted sexy across the room. Chevetta's chicken.
Ooh.
That was my favorite. It was a little dry because it was just chicken, whereas the other ones had sauces and stuff, but and then poutine.
The poutine and
the poutine was really good, except that there wasn't enough gravy and cheese. Mm-hmm. It was more potato on the inside, and pierogi is already a potato dough, so it was just a lot of potato. Yeah. So I liked the flavor. I just wish there would have been a little more cheese and gravy inside.
Because that one and the buffalo chicken wing dip one sound the buffalo
most
chicken wing
dip
thing
was
ever.
Bomb.
If he ever makes more, let me know. I'll give you money for
them. If you're in the Western New York area, look up Paul's Pierogies. If you're not, sucks to suck. No, he does deliveries twice a month.
Because those buffalo chicken wing ones sound like the
most man, thank goodness I didn't go to try to see my friend today because it's pierogi delivery day and I forgot. I didn't get any for this week, but I was going to go stop and see my friend at work, but he's not at work today because he's delivering pierogies.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, we don't really have anything to talk about our week because we have done nothing but talk about our traumatic pasts with our grandma, which is what we usually do when we see her because she is the most insane human being in the entire world and yet still the wisest person I've ever met.
Oh, 100%.
It's I don't know what kind of drugs made that brain, but I'm about it.
Yeah. Way to go, Graham. Good job.
Are you done?
No. This week, we watched episode 6 of Kolchak the Night Stalker. It was called Firefall. It came out... Oh, I get the name now. Sorry. When I thought it was a train conductor, I didn't know why it was about fire.
Yeah, so we thought it was about a train conductor because on the DVD, it just says a conductor. And online, because we didn't end up watching it together this week, so when I went to go watch it at home, the definition that it had for...
Description, not definition.
Thank you. the description for it online said a symphony conductor, and I was like,
the-
oh, okay.
The DVD just says a conductor, so I was fully expecting it to be about a train conductor. It was not. It was about a symphony conductor, but let me tell you how confused I was for the first 15 minutes of the episode. It came out on November 8th, 1974, and it was rated 7.7 stars, which is...
It's either the lowest so far or the second lowest.
No, it's the second lowest. The vampire was still rated... No, not the vampire. Which one was rated... Oh, the alien one was rated 7.3. The description says... Yeah, this is why... Okay, I don't know why. This description is so convoluted. There's no rest for the wicked when a conductor becomes possessed by a dead arsonist's killer spirit whenever he sleeps. That is also not what happened.
It's like we're going back to Netflix level of this, description over here.
Kolchak, fighting his own urge to slumber, must exhume the arsonist's body to reunite it with its spirit. That was only the last 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah. Now, real quick, I'm going to pull up the definition. Not definition.
Why do you
description.
think definition?
Listen, my brain doesn't want to work. Okay. So, for Firefall, it says, the fiery deaths of 3 associates of a symphony conductor bring fatigued Kolchak into a confrontation with a supernatural force. That is just enough to be like, okay, yeah, I kind of get it.
Yeah, the DVD tried to give us way too much detail and then did it wrong.
Yeah. And because while that did happen, the DVD description talks about possession, when that's not really what that was.
No, that did happen. It was just... Okay. It's very confusing. I'll be honest. This is the first episode that I literally didn't know what was happening. Usually, in all these episodes, because, like...
They're simple.
They're pretty simple plots. And, like, I have watched plenty of TV in my life. I've been able to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I didn't understand this episode.
Like, when you think of possession, you'll always think of, like, The Exorcist or something where a entity takes over a body. Whereas in this, the spirit took the form of the conductor.
Which, that is fine. I don't mind that issue. There was a lot of inconsistencies in how it worked.
Yes. And, because that's where I was going to go with that one. Because, like, normally when you hear possession, and that's why I think they could have used a different word, because they never said that he was possessed once. They just said that, oh, it's his doppelganger spirit.
They did. It was a doppelganger spirit, and when he was talking, when Kolchak was talking to the gypsy, they were talking about who it was possessing, because that was more important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so, it was written by Bill S. Ballinger, who didn't write a ton of TV. Like, he has, like, maybe 10 TV credits, but he's a suspense author. Like, he's written over 30 novels, and, like, he's a super well-known, like, author. And I think that was kind of obvious, because if I was reading the plot of this story as a book, I would have really liked it, because the fact that I didn't really understand what was going on in a book form works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it works as well on TV.
And it also makes sense if he's a suspense author, because it took 30 minutes for Kolchak to finally put pieces together.
It was 25 minutes before I understood what, like, because I mean, obviously, like, I read the description, but I don't really, like, pay it. The first time I watch it, I don't read anything ahead of time. I just watch the episode. And so it took 25 minutes for me to understand what was going on, let alone for Kolchak to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And so I think that if I was reading a book and all of these things were happening and we were trying to piece it together and you didn't really know what the bad guy was, but it was a full, like, 40-chapter novel, I would have really liked it. In a 45-minute TV episode, it was too much suspense and not enough answer.
Yeah. And that's very fair, because it felt like the ending to close everything up was a little bit more rushed than what we normally have with the show.
It was directed by Don Weiss, who directed episode 4, The Vampire.
I still don't like the vampire.
I know you don't like the vampire, but...
The werewolf kind of took the cake on that one.
But so, so we've talked about him already. Our 4 prominent guest stars, Ryder Bond, the conductor of the orchestra, was played by Fred Beer, who has, like, legitimately hundreds of guest appearances. Like, I think there was, like, 120-something on there. He's been in like everything from like the old Mission Impossible TV show, Chips, the original Dallas, like tons of stuff. The longest appearance he has of anything was that he was in 11 episodes of Days of Our Lives. So like he wasn't even like, he was literally like the guest star in everything he did.
Nice.
Sergeant Mayer, her police chief, was played by Philip Carey, who's also had tons of guest appearances. But most of his guest appearances were as cops or like military men. Like apparently that is the vibe he gives off.
Good for him.
But he was in 64 episodes of One Life to Live. So like eventually he stopped doing guest appearances and just got that steady soap opera gig.
Nice. Good for him.
Cardinal, who was one of those ones where he is only listed as high as he was because of how well known he is, because I literally after the first watch didn't know who that character was.
Yeah.
It was a scientist. He was played by David Doyle, who has 116 credits in a lot of acting and voice work. The two that I recognize the most, that I think are the most well known, he played Bosley in the original Charlie's Angels television show. But also the one that I laughed that I couldn't wait to tell you is he's the voice of Grandpa Lou in the Rugrats.
Really?
Yeah. So, but yeah, he was Bosley in the original Charlie's Angels. So, like, that's why he, even being in 30 seconds of the episode, he's as high as he is.
Yeah.
And our last guest star is Maria, the gypsy girl, played by Madeline Rue, who, again, 117 credits, tons of guest appearances. But she also was in 59 episodes of Days of Our Lives. So I feel like what happened was all of the people who were, like, really popular in the type of television that existed in the 60s and 70s, then once, like, that kind of television wasn't popular anymore, they all just got gigs on soap operas as the old characters.
Yeah. Pop off.
Because, like, this is, like, our fifth guest star that's, like, the thing they're most famous for is
Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. So, one day.
First thing I want to mention,
Because I felt special.
the guy who ends up possessing the conductor died on my birthday. Yeah, shot at 1 a.m. on September 3rd. In an arcade.
In an arcade, but my note said, honestly, it's sketch that everyone in this arcade is, like, 40.
Yeah, but granted, it was 1 a.m. But, like, still.
But, like...
But they were also doing shady business there.
Well,
so.
yeah, they were doing shady stuff, and it was, like,
If you're trying to make
drug
it a
drop-off and everything.
If you're trying to make it a believable front, throw some kids in there for funsies.
But I guess maybe at 1 a.m. there wouldn't have been any kids in there. But, like, why was the arcade still open at 1 a.m.? That is... the whole situation was just sketch. I don't approve. Yeah, so the guy gets shot at the arcade, and then the next scene is his funeral procession. Funeral procession. Sorry, my note is about possession, so like... and Ryder, our conductor, cuts off the hearse in the funeral procession.
Because he's running late.
And because he's running late and he likes to be on time. And that is when the possession happens. But now, here's my thing. How?
That's what I was going to get into, because, like, when Kolchak eventually goes and, like, sees his wife and, like, finds out that he loved music and wanted to be part of that.
Yeah, we find out that the reason that Ryder is the one that he possesses is because he loved classical music and he was jealous. He wanted to be a conductor. And Maria tells us that, like, doppelgangers are usually, like, possessing people that they were jealous of or wanted to be like. But, like, what would have happened if he hadn't cut him off?
Exactly.
Like, how did
was it just mad because he disrespected it? Did
like,
he get lost in translation?
My first thought was he got possessed because he was rude to the funeral procession, but then we learn all these details about, like, why it was him, and I was like, I don't...
Because also the freeze frame thing that was happening when he cut it off.
Yeah, I was like,
is that when he got possessed?
Yeah, I don't really fully understand the how or why of the possession.
Maybe he just got
But
mad.
don't worry, the possession will be just as inconsistent for the rest of the episode.
100%.
Oh, that note actually doesn't mean what it says at all. I wrote weird flash mob, but I didn't mean a flash mob. My brain just immediately put mob after flash. because flash mobs are cool.
I was very confused when you wrote down flash mob.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean flash mob at all. I meant that it was the way that the flash happened for the guy to get burned was weird and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But my brain just automatically attached Bob to the word flash.
Yeah. Like, it was... The thing when it comes down to the conductor doing... Not conductor. Oh. The arsonist doing the killings as this ghost and he kills these people. Two of them make it look like it'd be human. All three of them. Well, not the third one because I don't know if there was a fire that started in the car. But the first two, it was just the bodies that burned, so like spontaneous human combustion. So like if you've heard about
Kind of. There's a note about that later.
Yes.
But the thing is, it like is this weird. I don't know, like. I don't even know how to explain it because, like, later in the episode when things are on fire, you see how it was like a flashback that started the fire. But obviously, they can't do that to the people. So in order to do that, they had the same, like, lighting effect as a flashback. Only there wasn't actually fire. It was just like
smoke.
It was just super, super weird, and I didn't like it.
Because I was like, what, is he smoking him to death? And they came out looking like a charbroiled biscuit.
No, it looked like what happens when you brush the hot dog after you take it off the grill.
Yes.
Although, I don't really brush it. But you know how some people, like, he gets off the grill and it's a little too black, so they, like, brush it? Yeah. What's left? Mm-hmm. That is what he looked like on the bed.
Yeah. And then it was just the body imprint.
Yeah, it was weird. So then we go to this lady in the hallway and her dog is barking and there's like a ghost flash in the hallway and the dog's barking at it. And it seems in that moment like the dog saw the ghost and she didn't know what it was barking at. Mm-hmm. But then later in the episode she says that she saw Ryder there. So again, basically the moral of the story is I have been confused for the whole last 2 days.
Yeah, it was a very confusing style, especially with when it came down to how they were portraying him, because in full, sometimes he'd be like a normal person.
Oh, I have notes about that too.
And then there were times when he would be like hazy, like a ghost would be.
Yeah, I have a note here. Sometimes the doppelganger is a flash of a ghost, and sometimes it's a whole ass person. I don't understand.
And I didn't know if it was to try and make things more believable, because like when after they tell Ryder that his I think he was also a conductor too. I'm not sure. He did something in the symphony.
No. It was the concert master. It was like the first chair of whatever instrument it was.
Okay.
Sorry, my eyes are weird. Okay.
When he goes in and Ryder, and Kolchak tells Ryder, like, oh, like, this person died, like, someone said that they saw you there, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, I didn't even know, like, how is it supposed to happen? Yeah. Then, like, this little man walks in, and he's like, didn't you get my message? I said it was urgent. And he's like, what message? He's like, the one I just told you out on the stage.
He's like, you couldn't have. I've been in this room for the last 2 hours.
And then Kolchak, he asks him, he's like, well, did you see anyone see you deliver that message to him? Yeah. And he was like, yeah, the whole orchestra did. So
now, here is my only thought that could explain it. In Kolchak's world, inside Chicago 1974, he was always a person when he appeared. On the TV, it was the ghost flash to tell us what was going on, and then once we were aware of the situation better, it started to appear as a full person because we didn't need the introduction anymore. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of.
Because the ghost flash was for, like, the first
two, and then, like, when he was coming in and out of places, he would, like, dissolve to do it.
But
once we knew what it was, he always appeared as a person. Yeah. So my only theory is that what these people were seeing was always a whole person, and what we were seeing as the audience was the flash as their way of giving us exposition without giving us exposition.
That's fine. But I feel like they still could have done that effect, keeping him full figured and having him dissolve. I'm like, okay, he's a ghost. Cool.
Yeah, but again,
I don't know if people were that smart in the 70s.
Well, no, but it's also technology. Like, it depends on, like, what they were doing or how they were doing the dissolve.
And with, and And with all this stuff like going on, like, so clearly, obviously, people are seeing his apparition and like seeing him full figured and everything like that. And then, which only leads me to further my question: if he's able to present himself as a full person and people believe that it's him, why does he need to have full possession? Like, take over his body. Well, like, he doesn't talk, so maybe it's to like use the mouth.
Yeah.
But like,
well, hold on. Before we get too into the ghost, because before we know what's going on, there's obviously the whole police investigation thing of the murder. And the sergeant's theory is hella stupid.
dumb.
So dumb. The sergeant believes, for both of the first two murders, that the people fell asleep with a cigarette and burned themselves to death.
Now, here's the one thing that he noted in the second one and not the first one. Because they are staying in their sleeping position. No one got up. There wasn't a sign of panic or like, oh shit, I'm on fire. They both like just stayed there.
I don't know. I understand the drunk thought. I get that.
No, but I'm saying he didn't say that for...
He didn't say that for the first one.
The first guy.
But them being drunk would explain why their body didn't move. What it still does not explain is how the fabric material underneath them is still in perfect condition when their body is hot dog ash.
Yeah. I don't like that you called it hot dog ash, but yeah. It's very true. And like Kolchak even says that, like, I feel like these are one of those instances like the police can't explain away because like when it came down to like the vampires and the actual human beings.
But they didn't even try.
No, they just said, take it, run with it, go.
Oh man.
And then you know Kolchak, he doesn't believe a damn word.
Kolchak is not dumb. Like he's dumb, but he's not dumb.
He's like, homie, come on. Like I feel like he would have taken human
Kolchak
combustion.
was also like living his best life with the one-liners in this episode.
Oh yeah, Kolchak was on par this week.
Except for I've decided I don't like tired Kolchak.
Tired Kolchak is like I would assume drunk Kolchak.
Oh my god.
He's just like very
But
like
my favorite line was when the police officer was trying to take him out of the room and he said, "Get your hands off me. This is police brutality."
Then he falls to the ground.
Yeah, he just like threw himself on the floor. Then we go, Kolchak leaves the crime scene and goes to the conductor, and that's when he's all freaking out and on edge, and we have the little man, that whole scene. So then Kolchak goes back to the office, and he's very upset and preoccupied by this murder, obviously. And one of my favorite moments of the episode happens because Monique is writing the crossword puzzle. And she is so stupid.
Yup. I feel like that's like if you gave me that job. It executed the same way.
Also, Updike really pissed me off this episode.
Same.
He
really was uptight.
My note literally says, "Why is Updike such a fucking square?" Well, no, because the first time, he just was being his normal know-it-all self. Like, he knew everything about all of these composers and conductors, and like last week or a couple weeks ago, he knew everything that you could possibly know about transcendental meditation, and I was like, does this guy have a life?
No. Which I don't mind because it comes off meek and weak, but so it's like kind of funny, but he was like abrasive.
He was very abrasive later in the episode. He was like joining in with Tony, ganging up on Kolchak, and I was not a fan. I was like, Tony is allowed to talk to Kolchak like that. You are not.
Like, you have no right to speak to Kolchak that way.
Then we get a clip of the second murder, and my note says that this woman is not sufficiently scared for my liking.
That woman was also in the previous scene when Ryder finds out that the first guy's dead. And he goes, oh no, don't talk to her. She doesn't understand a single word. She's French. But then when she sees Ryder's ghost, she goes, in the most American accent, Ryder? Like, just like that. I'm like, that's not even remotely close to being a French.
But also, if you were alone and you were seeing things, why would you just then be like, cool, gonna take a nap on this pool chair? I would be like, oh,
I'm gonna go inside.
Things are a little sketch.
Not really that it would have prevented her death, but
no, but like she did not seem even the least bit bothered that there was a ghost hanging out at the pool with her. Oh, and then we have the best acting of the series so far.
Mm-hmm.
The girl who is upset about the French chick being dead.
Yes.
I just, like, actually believed her.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, this girl can actually act. I'm
It was
impressed. But then another one of my favorite random lines was that her boyfriend said, "It was the worst thing I've ever seen. I've been to Nam and seen things less scary." And I was like, what?
That was a line that they
That
actually
was-
said.
That is offensive to everyone who was in Nam.
Yeah.
Also, this was 1974. Like, you didn't joke about that.
Yeah.
And it was like a throwaway line that, like, just got said in the background. I was like,
Like, there was no need for it. But
okay.
the one girl who was very believable when she was being interviewed about it, she, the police officer was like, well, was she an alcoholic? And then she goes, you police always have the worst thing to say about people. She was very lovely. And that's when he explains, well, no, if she was drunk and she, you know. And so he explained it to her. But I'm like, you didn't have that theory last time. It was only
Right.
the match. That's when I was like, homie, you're... No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you know, but, like, let's continue on this train of thought of a stereotypical, like, slightly bigoted police officer from the 70s. The first guy was a professional musician who was about to go to perform in a symphony in an hour after he died, and the other girl was just a French boozy, or like a French floozy who hangs around with the guys. So which one of them would be drunk? Like
True.
that, you know what I mean? Like she
True.
was a French chick at a pool, so her being drunk was more believable in that line of questioning than the guy who was taking his pre-performance nap that he always takes, that it's documented that he does this every time he does a performance.
That's fair. That is
I
fair.
mean, it still doesn't make
Makes
the theory make sense, but at least I kind of get why that question came up the second time and not the first.
Okay, fair.
Tony is my hero. That is my next note, for many reasons, but in this particular reason, it is because he says to Kolchak, if you're going to continue to write about frauds and swindles, write about the fact that you work at this newspaper, which is the greatest swindle of all time.
Tony really just, like...
I'm dead. I'm just dead. Tony Vincenzo is my hero.
Like, he didn't even give him a mercy killing. He tortured him with that one.
Then Tony goes and obviously Kolchak goes and obviously blatantly ignores everything Tony has to say, as per usual, and goes to see some weird scientist guy
Who's burning Christmas trees.
who is the guy who's famous for being in Charlie's Angels, who then is only in this scene. But yeah, he's burning Christmas trees. And he explains the temperature of, like, human burning to Kolchak, and it says that if these things are really happening, either it is some kind of military-grade illegal chemical that shouldn't be in human hands, or something spooky.
He's like, something's going on.
That I don't know about, but I want to know about it. So,
like, props off to him. And then Kolchak's like, but I really don't want to know about it, but as a reporter, you gotta know things you don't want to.
And then he makes some kind of joke about how he could be making a lot more money doing something else, but here he is, chasing ghosts.
Yep.
And this is when we have the issue with the doppelganger being a real person versus a ghost, because the doppelganger gets into a car with somebody, and Kolchak is, like, driving, and then the car goes, and so he does a 3-point turn to, like, follow the car, but then in the next scene, the car's, like, solidly 6 blocks ahead of him, and my note says apparently Kolchak is the slowest 3-point turner ever.
Yep.
I have no idea how that happened. I was like, what?
Well, Kolchak barely uses the doors on his Mustang. He decides to climb out of it.
Yeah, but he, like, he backs up into the street when there could be traffic without looking all the time, and yet he does a careful, slow 3-point turn. Like, you saw how he was going around that sidewalk.
Yeah.
This man is...
His driving skills are very inconsistent.
This whole episode is inconsistent. Oh, and speaking of inconsistent, why was there so much smoke in the car when the other two bodies just burned and then were ash and there was no smoke?
Yeah.
Also, why did the other two people have to be laying down asleep and this guy was awake and driving a car?
Yeah, also. Because and this is where I was talking to Mary Kate, where I was confused, because later on when Kolchak goes to talk to the gypsy about everything, she's like, because Kolchak gets himself involved, and now his ass is now on the line with this ghost. Like, the ghost has words.
He's throwing hands.
And so she says the second the conductor falls asleep, like, he's going to try and take over his body. But she also told Kolchak
that if he falls asleep, he's dead meat.
Yeah.
So don't know why the first two victims, we did see them laying down with their eyes closed before they caught on fire. So not really sure how this guy is.
Unless he's just a really bad driver and fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, no consistency. Then obviously, Kolchak saw Ryder in the car with this guy. Then the car is now on fire. So Kolchak runs back to the orchestra, to the theater, to see Ryder, who is conducting the orchestra
for their matinee show.
And by conducting the orchestra, I mean waving a baton around in a way that is in 0% chance of actually conducting anything. Yeah. On top of that, the people who were playing in the orchestra were the least convincing fake trombone players I've ever seen.
The only one that looked convincing was the woman who was playing the French horn. So watching her fingers, they were in time.
The trumpets, I don't even think those guys were hitting buttons, and the trombone was moving at none of the right places. So basically,
that whole scene was a sham.
It was terrible. The crazy thing to me is, like, the music direction on the episode, like, the actual orchestrations and the background incidental music of this episode was so good. Like, so good.
Banger.
So they clearly had, like, somebody who works for Kolchak somewhere who knows something about music, and they couldn't tell this guy to move the trombone a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. I'm just very confused.
Yep. Or teach Ryder how to fucking conduct.
Like, sorry, I just threw my pen. It was like he was conducting. But you know how when you conduct, you're going in the beat of the music. Like, you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what a conductor does. They're giving you the tempo.
And then you go bigger as I need to go louder.
Yeah, like the aggression with which you move and the way you're pointing has to do with who's playing and the volume and everything. But the actual movement of the baton is the tempo of the music.
This motherfucker's doing this. Like,
so he was like up and then over. That tempo, that music was being played in apparently like 1:37.
Yeah,
it didn't. That's not even a tempo you can play music in. It was so bad.
He was basically like, they said, have you ever seen Fantasia? Be Mickey Mouse.
No, even Mickey Mouse had a better tempo than this guy. Then the ghost, or Kolchak, goes to Ryder's house to talk to him about everything that is going on. And it's not Ryder, it's the doppelganger, which was kind of obvious by the fact that this man said 0 words.
And also another thing that is extremely inconsistent in this scene is
when the ghost suddenly doesn't have aim?
Well, yeah. And when the ghost also suddenly decides to, instead of setting just the person on fire and leaving the rest of the room.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't hit, like, in every other situation, he set a person on fire and the room was fine. And now he suddenly has no aim and, like, is just setting things on fire.
Yeah. The whole room went up and I'm like, this isn't, what? Okay.
Which is supposedly due to the fact that Carl is awake.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't explain why the car driver dead.
So I guess the only thing we can assume about that car driver
big brain. He didn't set the guy on fire in the car. He set the car on fire, and that's why there was so much more smoke, and also the guy died of smoke inhalation, not being set on fire.
Well, there you go.
I just fixed the plot hole. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So then Kolchak goes to find out what the F is actually going on, and
before then, When he's trying to leave the room, he takes off his hat and like touches a doorknob with it, which is what you would do if there was a fire. But then when he goes to leave the room, bare hand grabs the doorknob and just closes it behind. Yes, he does. He grabs
to close it behind him. Well, because the fire's not on the outside of the room.
True, but if that doorknob on this side's hot, it's gonna be hot on the other side.
Well, yeah.
That's how you can tell if a room on the other side of a door is on fire.
But again, we're not even dealing with real fire. We're dealing with spooky ghost fire. So
maybe the laws have changed.
I don't know.
I mean, that fire definitely did not look real. That was burning in there, but like pop off.
Then he goes to understand what's going on, and he goes to his friend who is a gypsy. She tells him sort of everything he needs to know, but in very vague
terms.
Like, she's like, well, it's something to do with his body and reuniting the spirit and something. And he's like, but like how? And she's like, I don't know.
She's like, I'd have to ask my grandmother, but she would sit there and talk to me about her arthritis, and then I'll never be able to get to tell you, blah, blah, blah. And Kolchak was like,
he's like, okay, go talk to your grandma. And she's like, for $200. And he's like, bitch, I only have $5.
But then he ends up stealing petty cash later to give to her for that.
Yeah. So once he is now sure that it is a doppelganger and he knows that he can't... Oh, the one thing that she tells him that is actually useful is that a doppelganger ghost cannot attack on sanctified ground, on sacred ground, so they have to go to a church if they want to sleep, because then they can sleep without the ghost taking over their bodies. So
would a graveyard also work?
No.
No,
because I mean the thing is, when you usually when like people are buried, like priests will like bless their body, but they don't necessarily bless the ground.
Okay.
Whereas the church, the building itself is.
No, because I was asking because remember last time when we were dealing with the voodoo thing?
Yeah.
He couldn't go onto the cemetery.
No, that's where he did. You remember he slept in the cemetery or the hearse, like he needed to sleep around dead bodies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was getting confused. Never mind.
So, Kolchak goes to get Ryder, tell him what's going on, and Ryder explains that he thinks that he has schizophrenia, where he is seeing himself. And then, in a very nice touch, the piano goes crazy.
Oh, yeah. And, the top of the piano closes, and, like, Ryder's kind of on the fence with believing Kolchak, but he's, like, the only person that's actually ever believed Kolchak ever in the history of Kolchak.
Well, I mean, he's the one who's being possessed, so, like, it's more likely that he'll believe Kolchak than the police.
But once he saw that piano fill, he's like, oh, shit, you might be onto something. Let's get out of here.
But my favorite thing about the piano gag was that not only did the piano, like, crash and start playing, it was so bad. But that's also, you have to remember, I forgot to turn my phone on silent.
See, last week it was me, this week it's you.
I know. And mine is way more obnoxious. The arsonist guy wants to do music, but he clearly isn't actually good at music. So the fact that the piano started playing and it was just terrible made me happy.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I have a question that I realized I've had this question before, but I've never talked about it. Why is the filing cabinet for the newspaper in the bathroom?
That's right.
I don't know. I noticed it today. I was like, Kolchak is like throwing these things, trying to find them into the sink behind him. Like, why is the filing cabinet in the bathroom? Because the first time he was looking at files, Monique was hiding in the bathroom stall. Yeah, so apparently INS is the small office, and they keep their filing in the bathroom, which is also apparently a unisex bathroom.
Which also could be a very bad thing, because then anyone could literally go in and take the files.
Or, like, I don't know, a sink could break, and there could be water leakage, and then you ruin everything.
Or someone takes a piss and grabs a file without washing their hand. Don't want to think too much about that one.
Kolchak finds the file on the arsonist and goes to his house to talk to his family to get more information. And we meet, quite honestly, the dumbest human being alive.
Yeah, and, like, you're talking to two people who got fucked over in relationships, this poor woman.
I don't even feel bad for her. Because this woman, her husband is a convicted arsonist, and she still doesn't know what he does for a living.
Yep.
He
doesn't talk much. You were married for 6 years. I would really only see him when he was sleeping.
But, like, there's newspaper articles about him being arrested for and convicted of arson. Like, are you illiterate?
I mean...
Like, at that point, it's kind of on her.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, he's not a good guy. He's a convicted arsonist who got killed by a gang and, like,
Yeah.
is teaching his son to burn things. But, like, how have you been married to this man for 6 years, have a child with him, and can't figure out what his job is? When there's, I don't know, public record that he's a criminal.
But you want to know what's really sad? Kolchak already probably knew more about him besides
The music thing
than she ever would have.
And, like, no, I'm not victim blaming. I'm sure
Yeah.
he was a horrible person, and, like, but she didn't seem like she was in an unhappy marriage. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't imagine being that dumb that you don't know what your husband's job is.
Yeah. Or at least
Especially
not
when, I
saying
don't know, there's newspaper articles about his job.
Or she's just like, or else she's just like really just putting on this whole act of like, I really don't want to acknowledge the fact that that's who he was, so I'm pretend he did nothing.
Oh, that giggle seemed real. I don't know. I don't know. So then Kolchak goes to find out where this man's died to get, I don't know, in his whole plan to reunite the body and everything. And he goes back to the arcade. And the arcade owner guy.
Me and Renee both liked his shirt. Most iconic shirt that anyone's worn in Kolchak. He definitely went to Woodstock in 69.
He was high as fuck.
And okay, so her and Renee have never seen Vegas Vacation. But I am almost convinced this actor, so like if any of you have seen National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation, you will know who I'm talking about. But I'm almost convinced the actor who was in control of the arcade was the guy when they were playing the lottery in the casino at the end of the movie. He went, "I got the money, I won the money," and then dies.
My question is, why on earth was there ever a National Lampoon Vegas Vacation made?
That's a good question, but I want to dig into that one.
Right. So moving on from this horrible man and his ugly snail shirt.
His snail shirt is cute. He was carrying a flower, right, Renee? Back me up. Cute snail shirt.
Yeah. No, the snail shirt would have been cute if he was a 5-year-old girl, not a 50-year-old man.
Come on.
No, I'm not budging. It's not. Oh,
It's
man. So then Kolchak goes back to the office to, like, I don't know, rob the whole office. He steals all the cash out of Tony's desk. He starts stealing caffeine pills out of
Now, mind you, at
Ron's
this point,
desk.
Kolchak probably hasn't slept in like 2 days, and he is delirious at this
He
point.
is not making any sense. He invites Ron to go grave digging with him. Like, he is a mess.
And Tony's just like, go to sleep. Go to bed. It's okay. You won't miss anything. And then the church calls him, and he's like,
peace out. I gotta go back to the church.
deuces.
But at the church, we have my favorite Kolchak moment in the series so far, where Kolchak goes to explain the doppelganger situation to the police officer and then just says, you know what, never mind. I'm done. I am not even gonna bother.
Yep.
You're not gonna believe me anyway.
And at least he's self-aware.
No, he's just too tired to formulate sentences.
That's very fair. So then he's trying to, now, while they're doing this, the doppelganger is like peeking his head in the window because he can't go inside the church, but he's outside the church, basically making it like impossible for him to sleep or impossible for him to be comfortable to get him to leave and make him seem like he's going psychotic because there is a psychiatrist, not a psychiatrist, but his doctor's there. And she's like, he needs to be brought to a hospital and have a nice, safe night's rest. Like, he's not sleeping. And Kolchak's like, no, he's not going anywhere. And then Kolchak's like grabbing him like this, like, you gotta make a decision, man. You gotta think about it. And Kolchak's fucking in a different plane of existence, too.
Well, and the whole time, the doppelganger ghost is, like, at the top window of the church, like, knocking on the window, but apparently only Kolchak and Ryder can see it, which
or
is, like,
hear it.
which is also, like, I don't understand how this happened, because he was appearing to people the whole episode. Also, I apologize to anyone who's watching this and not listening to it. There's something wrong with my eye. My allergies are really bad, and so I've just literally been, like, blinking and, like, trying. It feels like I have a dry contact in my eye, but I haven't put contacts in my eye in 1.5 years.
Oh.
So, I apologize if I look insane right now.
But, another plot hole aside, Ryder ends up staying, and Kolchak's like, okay, go to sleep. Now, mind you, when he tells him to go to sleep, he just, like, puts his hand on his face and, like, just shoves his head down into the pew. He's like, go sleep, go sleep.
Then, he decides he can't sleep, and it's nighttime, so it's time to go get the arsonist's body. And he says, grave robbing and body snatching are illegal in Chicago still. And I said, aren't grave robbing and body snatching illegal everywhere?
According to Kolchak, it's only legal in Chicago.
So I don't know where you live, but it's possible you live in a city where it's not illegal to dig up a dead body and take it with you.
Just check.
That's your assignment for this week. Figure out what the grave robbing laws in your town are.
I hate that. Anyway, so he goes and takes this dude to the arcade.
And also, like, that poor dead body. Kolchak was a man handling that dead body. He was, like, dragging him down the stairs. He, like, threw him out of the car. Because Kolchak was so tired he couldn't lift it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So he brings him into the arcade where he died. And, then we see Ryder, well, the doppelganger there. And not saying a word, but things start to go up in flames. And Kolchak does this for a half-tired man who can barely frickin' walk. Does this amazing priest speech.
Yeah.
And he's like, may you rest in peace forever. And I'm like, wow.
I just want to know if aggressively yelling at spirits always works that well. Because
in front of their dead body.
It was intense.
And surprisingly for a spirit who really just wanted to be a conductor, he caved pretty quickly.
Yeah, he probably just also didn't really want to deal with it anymore.
But also, it almost made you think that the spirit didn't know who he was.
Well, and they did kind of talk about that before, because Kolchak said that, the reason he had to get the dead body back to the arcade was because the doppelganger wouldn't remember anything before him dying at the arcade.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a matter of, needing him to figure out who he was.
Yeah.
So.
And he's like, you are this man right here. This is you. You are dead.
Get in your body.
And then he does this really weird, looks like one of, you're, deflating a balloon type thing. He does, this little, slouch thing.
Yeah.
All the way to the ground, out of frame.
Was, interesting.
And so then the arcade goes into flames because, Kolchak's there doing stuff, and as Kolchak's leaving, the police are there, and he's like, oh, I had nothing to do with what's going on in there right now.
Which, of course, is...
And then, his end little monologue, he's like, yeah, I have an arson charge, but I don't know where Tony is. It's a card night, so, I don't know where he is, but I think I'm gonna go take a nice little nap in prison for a night.
Yeah, I mean, also, poor Tony.
And Tony is, dad of the year to a man that's the same age as him.
Yeah, so... Tony doesn't rescue Kolchak for once, and Kolchak actually has to go to jail for the first time in the entire series.
Yep.
Do we want to do trivia or goofs first? I like goofs better.
Yeah. It's going to probably be a long list.
Okay. Aha! The first one. The continuity... Oh no, there's some continuity errors. Firstly, Kolchak must exhume a grave in the course of the story. And in his voiceover narration, explains that he must do this alone because nobody he can ask to help him. Because he has nobody he can ask to help him do such thing. However, the brief clip of him standing inside the half-dug grave clearly shows him illuminated by several flashlight beams. This is because the footage is recycled from an earlier episode, The Zombie.
Oh.
It's actually from the scene where the two mob guys are helping him dig up the body.
Okay.
Yeah. The position of Ryder Bond's Rolls Royce beside the funeral procession changes in every scene.
Oh, really?
Where it is next to the funeral procession changes in every scene. Miscellaneous. The young couple tell Sergeant Mayer that they heard screams and ran to the pool, but they weren't doing that in the previous scene. They were laughing and casually walking to the pool. However, they may simply be embellishing their story for the police to seem like more concerned citizens.
Fair.
This is the one that I was excited about. It's established throughout that the doppelganger can only kill a victim when they're sleeping. Despite that, it incinerates its third victim as he drives through downtown Chicago. Also, the doppelganger causes fire around Kolchak's twice, at Bond's apartment and later at the arcade when Kolchak is awake. So, we don't understand.
Yep.
And then an error in geography. While this episode supposedly takes place in Chicago, there are palm trees in the background of many shots.
Yep.
Which Monica did ask about that. She was like, where do they actually film this? Because it doesn't look like Chicago.
Yeah, I was like, do they actually film this in Chicago? Because there's a lot of outdoor scenes.
Well, a lot of, so the overhead shots of, like, the highways and the buildings that there aren't people in, like, in the opening credits, those are actual footage of Chicago. And some of the outdoor scenes in, like, parks and stuff are actually filmed at the University of Chicago, but most of it is filmed in a backlot in LA.
Yeah.
There's only 2 trivia pieces. First one. The phenomena of persons instantaneously igniting or spontaneous human combustion has actually been documented, although completely turning to ash has not been documented.
Yeah.
That's why I said kind of, when you were like, they could just call it spontaneous human combustion, which, like, yes, except for that they don't become ash. And then the last one. In this episode, the spirit is referred to as a doppelganger. The word doppelganger is often used in a more general sense to describe any person who physically or behaviorally resembles another person, which I wouldn't consider that a spoiler, because I think the doppelganger ghost myth is still existing, and, like, it's still a myth. Just because we, in common day rhetoric, don't use doppelganger to mean what it originally meant in myth doesn't mean that that myth stopped existing.
Yeah. But anyway, like this episode, it wasn't terrible. I think the idea was a good idea.
Like I said, if it had been a book, I would have loved it.
It was just very convoluted for a 45-minute TV show.
Yeah, it was definitely the one that was the hardest for me to understand so far.
And, like, there was nothing actually wrong with it. Like, there were obviously some plot holes when it came down to
even those we've made up reasonable excuses for almost all of the plot holes. Like, just because the actual, like, story probably didn't think about it as hard as we did doesn't mean that we've been able to at least, like,
kind of justify
sprinkle some soil into most of these plot holes.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, that was Call Shack, the Night Stalker, the episode of Fire.
There isn't going to be any bonus footage of us watching the episode this time because, like I said, our grandma's in town and we've kind of been all over the place this week. Mm-hmm. And we didn't watch our first watch together.
Yeah, and the rest of the month of July is going to be
we're going to have some interesting things coming up because we're both going on vacations in different weeks.
Yeah. So, it's going to be a very interesting month, but hang in there. It's only for 1 month, and then by August we'll be hopefully back on the same smooth track that we've been on.
I wouldn't call anything we do smooth.
The same roughly bumpy track that we've been on.
Perfect.
But not as bumpy as we have been.
Yeah.
Gonna be. That's what I meant to say. I can't word good right now.
If you have any questions, concerns, or you do, in fact, research what the grave digging laws in your town or city are, please send us an email at deathandaliens@gmail.com or talk to us on Instagram or Twitter at deathandaliens, all one word.
And then if you want, you can follow me on Instagram at monica.lynn_ and on Twitter at mon_lynn_.
And you can follow me on everything at EMKAY_superstar. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Well, next week, this episode will be on the 4th of July.
Ooh.
Fancy.
I know the episode probably won't have anything to do with it, but we'll still wish you guys all the happiest of 4ths.
Maybe I'll do red makeup so that I'll be red, white, and blue.
Stop, that's so cute.
Anyway, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.